Faith and Family Fellowship Podcast is a Christ-centered podcast. Established in 2019 and hosted weekly by Pastor Chris Busher. Addressing a host of topics such as the Great Commission, Christian discipleship, and often featuring interviews with special guests who are experts in their field. The views and events expressed on this podcast and all related materials belong solely to their author and not necessarily to the author's employer, organization, committee, or other group or individual. While all attempts are made to present accurate information, some information may become outdated over time. Faith and Family Fellowship Podcast makes every attempt to timely update any and all such information. Without further delay, here's another powerful episode of Faith and Family Fellowship Podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of Faith and Family Fellowship Podcast. Once again, my name is Dallas. Today, we have another incredible guest joining us, Jazmine Tates, all the way from Dallas, Texas, a wonderful place there in Dallas. So thank you so much for joining us, Jazmine. How are you today?
I'm well. How are you?
I can't complain. Everything is going well. And we are preparing you to have a conference here in just a couple of days here in July 11th through the 13th. You are having a webinar to help people succeed in business. And so we're going to talk about that today. We're going to provide the links for our audience. But just to give our audience the title of today's episode, it is How to Bootstrap Your Cleaning Business and Launch It Anywhere. Just for those who don't know what bootstrapping is, what is this? Is this a military term? Is this, just explain what this is here.
It's a term of using what's in your hands and finding ways to make it work without having access to a lot of capital, using the gifts that God gave us to make it happen.
And so you're telling me that I can start a business without a lot of capital. That's what you're telling me.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
So we're interested to hear your topics today and your secrets and your tricks to how we can do this. And
awesome.
So just tell us a little bit, Jazmine, a little of who you are and how you became a Christian, and then we'll go from there.
Nice. So my name is Jazmine Tates. I am a wife, a mom of three active boys. I am heavily involved in our local assembly. I got saved when I was 21 years old. I grew up in a household that knew of God, but I didn't know God. Just out there, just figuring out life, but not really knowing where I was going. Like I said, I knew of God, but I didn't know him for myself. And one time I had a dream, and he visited me in a dream, and I woke up the next morning and I told my mom to help me find a church like my grandmother's church, right? Mm-hmm. But not knowing that now, as I'm older and mature, I know that I was wanting her to help me to find a space to where I can find his spirit. And, we went to go visit different churches, and we finally found a church home that I just really felt like home. And I got saved at 21. It was the best choice of my life ever. I met my husband at that church. And, of course, as you grow in God, you're able to develop yourself and get to know who you are as a person. And my relationship and this journey has been rocky, and it's been ups and downs, but I'm so grateful that I made that decision, because I do know that if I did not will my will to his, that I may not be here today because of choices that were not the best choices for myself. So it was 21, and I tell my kids, because, I have younger kids of 16 through 5, and I encourage them to get to know God. And I let them know like how fortunate and blessed they are to be so young and to know who he is, and to be so young and to have that relationship, because I didn't. I wondered for many years, but now I can grow in him and then teach these same things that I'm learning to my kids. So I think that's one of the most amazing things, because sometimes they'll be like, oh, well, you're lucky because, you got a chance to live life. Well, some of those choices were not really the best. And, they're kind of filled with some heartache, but knowing that I appreciate my journey and I appreciate the way that he took me, because now those things that he has delivered me from, I can be a testimony to others that have been through those or going through those, and I can tell them that there is a way out. And it may not look like it, it may not feel like it, but trust me, if he did it for me, he can do it for you. So as much as some of the past choices I regret, I'm grateful for the fact that it can help free somebody else.
Yeah. Amazing. Jazmine, thank you so much for sharing a little bit of that. Now I feel like we know you a little bit better, and we can go a little deeper into your business and your journey as a cleaning professional. So just tell us what kind of happened there. How was this birthed, and what happened from that moment?
Oh my goodness. So my husband and I, my husband is a truck driver by trade, and he was trying to work in the oil fields as a truck driver because, we hear that, oh, there's big money in the oil. So, he goes out there. I just had my youngest son and I wasn't working. But he was not striking gold. It wasn't striking oil. So we end up in this very hard financial situation where we kind of lost everything. We were evicted from our home. We had our cars repossessed, and we eventually had to move out with just the things that we can hold. I'm very fortunate that my parents also moved to Dallas with us from California. So we did stay with them for a short amount of time. They did have a very small apartment. So it was a big family of 5 sharing one, bedroom. And I just remember waking up and praying. My kids were asleep and my husband was still in West Texas trying to work. And I was just praying, and God was like, start a cleaning business. I'm like, God, I like to clean, but I'm like, who pays to get their house clean? And he was like, you need to put your hands to work, do something that you can provide a service, and then they can pay you. I'm used to being in business, but the previous business that I had were a product base. And with a lot of product based businesses, you have to have the capital up front. You need to pay for, your shipping and products and packaging. But he said a cleaning business. And I'm like, I don't know, God, this doesn't really sound like it's a way out. And I'm very obedient to his word. So I didn't know what I was doing. I knew how to clean. But I went to go grab a mop, asked my mom for a vacuum, her broom. I went to the dollar store and I bought some cleaning supplies and a bucket. And I found clients online on Facebook, and I went to start cleaning. I had no idea what I was doing as a business. I just knew that God said start a cleaning business. And I was so amazed at how fast it blew up. Within our first month, I did a little close to 10K my first month. And I remember calling my husband and telling him, and he's like, there's no way that many people are getting it. I was like, honey, I don't know. I just keep putting information out there and clients keep coming. And
if I can ask, what was it like, Jazmine? Was it because you were doing a lot of high value clients, or it was just because you were charging a lot? What was this like? How did they make the 10K?
I wasn't even charging a lot. I wasn't charging a lot because I didn't understand pricing. I didn't understand market research and market value. And I also was charging based upon my own limited beliefs of what I feel like people would pay for my services. But I have a great work ethic. And so I was doing 2 to 3 houses a day, 7 days a week, after I dropped my kids off, when I dropped my kids off, after church. So I literally just went to work. So I did a lot of work. And yes, I was able to grow that. And then after that month, I was like, okay, I'm only limited to what I can do. And I know that I want to grow this into a business. But I can only do so much. And I was finding that I was missing out on new potential clients because I'm at a job and I didn't want to answer the phone while at a job because I didn't want to be rude and, inconsiderate. So I'm at the job cleaning, but I'm missing new leads. So that's when I really started doing research to figure out how can I grow this into a real business.
Wow, that's incredible. It's such a good story of the progress. Right?
Yeah.
Because it is a process, and it is learning the market. It is learning the price value, learning all of these things. And you were limited to what you could do. So you needed to start bringing in other people and then expand it in this way. So
you're listening to the Faith and Family Fellowship Podcast. We'll be right back after this quick word from our sponsors.
Are you looking for a podcast that you can tune into, grab a cup of tea, and just relax listening to godly inspired truths that edify your life? Then As I Grow Up by Carla Silver has the podcast for you. Through her podcast, she discusses what she has learned in her walk with Christ and takes you on her journey as she learns more. Find more information by searching As I Grow Up on all streaming platforms. 10K, where are you today in the business?
So today, oh my goodness, it's been a whirlwind because, of course we had COVID in the midst of there. So I had to take a pivot. Right now I have got a stretching me again. And it's so funny because 2021, God challenged me to teach women of my Bible study this business during pandemic, to teach them. So I taught them how to do this business. And I wanted to see if my processes and my steps were able to be duplicated. And a lot of them were able to launch very successful cleaning businesses as well. It was an online, we're in COVID. So we're all online. We're calling from different places and we meet on Zoom once a week. And then we added an extra day where I would teach them this. But then later on, God challenged me to teach more people. And I'm like, God, I'm super shy. I don't like to talk. I like to stay in the back end. And he was like, you can't be selfish. So it was just amazing to see that I thought that God brought this business just for me. But in all actuality, he brought it for other people. He just needed me to test out the steps and the strategies and go first. Then I can come back and teach people. So now today, along with the cleaning company, I have an academy where I teach over 500 people how to do the same thing and get the same results. And I think that's one of the most amazing parts. That's what really brings me the most joy, to know that other people that related to my scenarios and had financial hardship, now they have a sustainable business to where they have flexibility of time and they don't have to go to work. They can be home with their kids and still have a successful business and be there for their families. I'm a huge advocate for stay-at-home moms because I believe that our kids need that daily influence. So I think that's the most beautiful part. But today, 6-7 years later, I have the cleaning business, several cleaning companies, and then also this amazing academy that I'm growing.
It's amazing. It's so amazing to hear this success story. And you were saying that it wasn't just for you, it was for other people as well. Yes. Mm-hmm. And I think that's hard to do because sometimes when we get a business and it's working, we're like, I'm going to ride this out until it stops.
Right.
This is for me, get your own type of deal. This is mine. And so it's amazing you could help other people with this.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, really cool. And what are just some of those strategies without giving too much away? If you could just, of course, you're having courses and you're doing seminars and webinars. And so if you could just give us a couple of things for free today.
Yes, of course. Because of my financial situation that I was in and I didn't have access to funds for a coach or a course or training, I relied heavily on, YouTube University. And I relied heavily on, Google and just trying to find any kind of information and access as many questions as I can and find resources. So I always love adding value. I have an amazing YouTube channel where essentially somebody could potentially go on there and start a business just from those videos. So I love being able to provide value for those that may not have the funds because there's so many different strategies. And, one of the things that worked well for me with not having access to a lot of funds and doing that bootstrap model was working with contractors. I couldn't do the W-2 model. I didn't have the funds to work, to have the prepaid taxes or provide the supplies and equipment and transportation. So I essentially found other cleaners that was like me, that were solo cleaners that were needing clients. So they had the experience. They knew how to clean. They knew, what clients expected. They understood the whole service, right? But they were needing clients. So I partnered with people that already knew the service industry, that knew exactly what was expected, but they need clients. So if I have clients and you're a cleaner and I need a cleaner, partnering with contractors was the best move because we were benefiting from each other. And you're able to do that without having to have that startup funds, because with contractors, they do have to provide all of their own equipment and supplies, but essentially they're already business owners. So they already have it. They already know that they need to have that stuff. But yeah, so that's my number one thing. Contractors, finding the right person, because they do represent your company, and finding that right cleaner will depend on the growth of your business. The goal is to get reoccurring clients. And you can't get a reoccurring client if they did not like the first service that was provided. So always, trying to have a good hiring process put in place so you can find good quality, loyal, dependable cleaners. And I understand life happens and sometimes they may have to call out, and I get that, but having that reliable cleaner that you can depend on, that can provide a service no matter what. And then my second tip would be utilizing good lead generation options. So Google Leads, Yelp Local, Thumbtack. These are just a few lead generation platforms that you can use to find that right target client. And with that being said, I think it's really important that you do try to do the market research because the US is humongous. And there's several cleaning companies, but I don't believe that a business is oversaturated, right? I think, you go down the bread aisle, there's several breads, right? You go down and you're going to see choices. So it's a matter of finding your right client. Do you service the city? Do you service uptown? Do you service families in the suburbs? Do you service, what's the word I'm looking for? Like high rises, right? So finding that information, then you can know who to target on your lead gen platforms. So those three together, if you can master those three with getting the clients and getting the cleaners, you would be onto a really, really great start.
And so you're talking about what I need. Let's also talk about what I don't need, which I see on your site here, which is you don't need to clean anything yourself. You don't need large amounts of money to start. You don't need an email list at all. You don't need to even be a U.S. citizen. And so I want to talk a little bit about one more. You do need a little courage. And
yes.
I like that. I want you to break those down just a little bit. And then I want to ask another question about not being a U.S. citizen. We'll go into that after.
Okay. Yes. So, let's say, so you don't need a lot of money. Everything that I literally just mentioned, you can do for little to nothing. When I started, like I mentioned, I had nothing. I borrowed $25 from my mom. I put it on Thumbtack and I would do a job, get the funds, half of it to the household, and I would put the other half back into marketing expenses, right? And I literally just did that for months to build it up. And then, so you don't need a lot to be able to start this business for the marketing. Contractors, you don't have to provide supplies and equipment. You don't have to do the cleaning yourself. Now, I started the cleaning myself, but that doesn't have to be everybody's path. The way I teach it is for you not to start initially doing any cleaning. It's you learning the business, understanding how the service works, and then putting the right people in place. So you do not have to provide any cleaning services yourself. Let me see if I can. What was the third one? I think I missed the third one.
Let me go back here. The third one was you don't need an email list.
And you don't need an email list. Yes, you do not need an email list whatsoever. Going with those lead generation platforms, knowing who you're servicing, knowing where you're servicing, and plugging that right information in, you're able to get access to your exact target audience that needs your services. And then also there's free ways as well. You can access Facebook groups, mom groups. I love mom groups, okay? Because mom groups, like, we understand what we need, and they ask the community for service providers, and then you can, swing on in and let them know the services that you provide. So those are other marketing ways that you could be able to get clients without having an email list.
Amazing. I want to read one more thing from your site. Even if you have no experience, have never succeeded online, and or currently employed at a full-time job, this can still work. And so I want to go to the last one that I was talking about, not being a U.S. citizen. I think I live in Brazil. I've been here for about 4 years. The cleaning business in Brazil is completely different from what I think about the U.S. The type of people in the US who have a house cleaner, from my perspective, most high-end people. It's not your normal working everyday type of guy. Is this right? Am I right on this assumption?
So that used to be my assumption as well, but it's not so much. I think maybe it's definitely more so. But I think like there's like maybe one level under that to where it is the working class to where like, they can expense that in their budget, but it's not so much, but yes.
Okay. So thanks for bringing that, because I haven't researched the market either. So I'm not sure, but that's my assumption. In Brazil, it's so much different because almost every person has a house cleaner. It's totally normal. Like,
wow.
it's just a normal lifestyle. You don't do this part of your house. You have a house cleaner that comes once or twice a week, 3 times a week, 5 times a week into your house.
Wow.
And so this is so much different. And because I have an aunt who has a similar business to you, who's doing this in Kansas City, Missouri, but I've been trying to tell people, do it in Brazil, do it in Brazil. Like everyone does it. It's an untapped market. So I think that's really interesting. So tell me what you meant about you don't need to be a US citizen to do this in the States.
Yeah, actually, I have a lot of students that live overseas and they have cleaning companies here in the US because it's a remote business. You can run this business from anywhere. I had a location in another state and I never physically met my cleaners. I never physically had to go in to establish the business. Everything was done online. So this is a remote business. You can be from the US and just travel abroad and just have that nomad lifestyle and run a very successful cleaning company. So it's amazing the flexibility that you'll be able to have with this type of company.
Amazing. So let's talk a little bit more about your training that's coming up here on July 11th through the 13th.
Yeah. Yes. So we are having a challenge. We had a conference in the beginning of June, and it was amazing. We had over 11 different topics that were taught, and we brought in all of our partner trainers to come teach on these topics. But after the conference was done, people were asking, well, how do I implement these things? Like, they gave us great strategies and great tips, but how do I put these things into play? How do I implement and work these things out? So we're actually going to have a challenge here on July 11th through 13th, and I'm going to actually show people how to put these strategies that they learned in the conference and actually put them into play and implement them into their business. So we're going to be talking about how to launch from zero to going live on their lead generation platform. So I'm super excited about that because my goal is to, if everybody's there is hungry, we're all on one accord, we can have several people launch their business all at the same time. So I'm really, really excited for this.
And so you're saying this is kind of connected to the first conference. So will we be missing out if we didn't view the first one? Or
no, because I'm going to come and teach everything. I'm going to show and talk about everything from start to finish. The conference was amazing. We brought in all of our partner trainers. I've been fortunate enough to partner with other individuals that have that has a level of expertise in their cleaning field, because the cleaning industry essentially is $1 billion industry. And it's not just residential. It's not limited to just homes. It's government contracts and student turnover and commercial and apartments and post-construction and movie sets. The list goes on. So other people that specialize in these industries came and taught the community all about these other cleaning services. So if somebody is interested in cleaning, but maybe not residential, they can also tap into those other areas as well.
Wow. Movie production cleaning. Like, I never would have imagined, but
never. Me neither.
What are some common misconceptions that people make working with you about the cleaning business?
That is too hard. Or that they think that they can get on it, get inside of it and learn it and, make $1 million the first month.
Why is what is my $1 million? I did what you said.
So, I think that's some of the misconceptions. It's like one of both sides. It's like some people will come in understanding that there's going to be a process. And then sometimes people will come in with maybe unrealistic expectations. Being an entrepreneur or a business owner, it takes a lot out of you and it requires a lot of you. I'm a firm believer that working on you is working on your business. And as I was mentioning earlier, I didn't charge my right prices because of my limited beliefs, because I didn't think people would pay them. But ultimately, not charging my right prices meant that I wasn't paying my cleaners well either. So, trying to overcome scenarios like that in myself helped my business. I have some students to where they may give up too soon because it gets a little challenging. And I have some students to where they made $250 their first month and $400 their second month. and 100 the third month, and they kept working. And now they're 6 months in and they're making 16,000, I think 18,000 a month. But she had to grow and grow within herself and her mindset to be able to accept the challenge that is not going to come easy, but I'm going to appreciate the process. So that way I will be able to have this amazing business full and lacking nothing.
And you said it earlier, a pivoting, bootstrapping entrepreneur. So
Yeah.
during COVID, you had to pivot. So what was that like for
yeah.
you, and what changed in the business during that time?
Oh, it was a very strange time. I was definitely blessed to be able to create this business and be able to be a good steward over our funds. So that way I was able to help my cleaners during that time. And we basically kind of pivot and going into commercial and doing like sanitization and fogging. That was another area I had no idea about, but we were getting calls from different corporations and businesses that were still open that needed our services. So we kind of made a pivot there. And we was able to work that as long as we could. And then we end up opening back up to, what's the word I'm looking for? Senior complexes that needed, heavily. So it was an interesting pivot. It took us a little bit of a minute to get back on our feet after, the restrictions had passed. But we survived it. So
yeah, we can learn so much during the pivot.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's super, because I was not a person that liked to pivot. I wasn't a person that's normally likes change. I am a type person. I'm a heavy planner person. I like to write things all out and follow things as they go. So it's very hard for me to pivot. It's very hard for me to be stretched outside of my comfort zone because I know what I'm good at and I want to do what I'm good at. God sometimes has a way of stretching us because he knows what he needs and has use of us. But yeah, so it was a very, challenging time, but I'm so glad that I had it because now I'm able to understand the importance of it and not see it as a setback. Because I saw it as a setback, as a failure. Like I had to change my plans, but Yeah.
What are your long-term goals for this? Like where you are today, where do you hope to be in 10 years from now? Where do you want to take this business?
So, goodness, that's an amazing question. 10 years from now, I'm currently developing a software platform for cleaning business owners to where they could be able to manage all of their day-to-day bookings and their cleaners and clients. So I'm currently working on that on the back end, and I have really high hopes for that. Being a business owner, I've had to test out a lot of different softwares and platforms and try to find the best one. Some is not so good, some is missing this, or some is overly complicated. So I'm currently working on that platform, and I really want to be able to grow that. So that way the cleaners and the cleaning business owners are able to manage their companies in a way that's easier. And then to be able to also offer the education. So it's like offering the education and the tools that they need to be able to be successful in their business.
Yeah. My final question for you today is, what if we have a listener who's saying, I'm interested, I like what you're saying, but I'm not sure if it's for me? What would you respond to those people?
So, that's tough. Well, it's not tough. One thing I'm going to say is seek God, right? I think he's never going to fail you. If you have some sort of interest in it, then dig a little deeper, find a little bit more information about it, because you may feel a little overwhelmed by the story. But I promise you that a lot of different people in different walks of life and different backgrounds, different experiences, I've been able to help them launch a very successful cleaning business. So if you are fearful, then I would ask you not to allow that fear to hold you back. If you are just seeking more information, then definitely find out, definitely ask, but don't allow fear to hold you back, because I promise you, you are 100% capable of doing this.
Yeah. Thank you, Jazmine. Thank you so much for everything that you shared today. Join in on the conference happening July 11th through July 13th. Yes. How do we find you? How do we find the links? How do we join to this conference?
Yes. So I will definitely give you the link, so that way they can be able to get it, like tap on it right away. But you can find us in the description. You can find us at ceocleaningacademy.com. I'm on social media as Jazmine Tates everywhere. So with a Z, on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. So that way you guys can join in our community, ask questions, get feedback from others. You don't have to do this alone. And that's one of the amazing parts that I love is that we built a community and you don't have to go through this process alone. There's other like-minded individuals literally walking the same paths as you. So come check us out. Yeah.
Thanks. Thank you so much. If you could end our time together with a prayer, I would really appreciate it.
Yes. Father God, we just want to just thank you so much, God, for this appointed time, God. Thank you for Dallas and having this platform to be able to help other people gain financial freedom through different opportunities of work, oh God. God, I ask that this episode has touched somebody's heart, God. I pray that you'll lead it to the right person that needs to hear it, God. I thank you so much for what you're doing in everybody single's lives, God. Continue to cover, protect, and guide us in the way, God. We just thank you so much for your blessings. Thank you so much for your protection, God. And as we continue on our day, God, I ask that you encourage us to share your love with somebody else, God. I thank you so much. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
You've just listened to the Faith and Family Fellowship Podcast with your host, Pastor Chris Busher. Faith and Family Fellowship Podcast was recorded live in studio with final editing made before uploading. Subscribe today to Faith and Family Fellowship Podcast on iTunes or Google Play. For more fantastic daily content, visit Pastor Chris Busher online via Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Don't miss the next episode on Faith and Family Fellowship Podcast.